Welcome to this first episode of Thoroughfan Focus. In this series, we'll be speaking with music's brightest pioneers and power players from all corners of the industry to bring you the best advice and insights. I recently sat down with content strategist and founder of SBN Studios, Nehemiah Wilson, who first made waves back in 2022 after masterminding and directing a viral video for Foggieraw. A performance video for his then unreleased single Psalm 62 went viral on TikTok, amassing over 9.3 million views, and attracted the attention of Chance the Rapper, SZA, Timbaland, and many more big names. So let's focus up and dive straight into how that moment came to be, why Nehemiah feels that video was so well received, and the lessons he learned in the aftermath of his success.
I think Foggieraw and I went viral because we created a video that just so happened to be what the world needed at the time.
Could we go back to being friends after we had dated?
We shot a video in a Waffle House, and it was a short form video. We called it a mini music video. It was based on Alicia Keys' You Don't Know My Name. He sampled that song and wrote a verse to it, and we shot it in a diner, paying ode to her music video, and that went all over the place. It went viral in 2022.
What are the parts for you that went well, and why do you think it was so successful?
Foggieraw's music is very authentic. He's not compromising. He's not creating radio stuff. He's just telling stories based on his life experience, right? So he stayed true to who he was. He's been making that type of music for as long as I've known him. I was listening to him back in high school before I even knew I'd be working with him, which is crazy. So he's been consistent all the way to that point. His music is perfect for the times that we were going through back in 2022 and now, because he's telling authentic stories, kind of like how artists did back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, right? Before the record labels kind of got their hand in everything and were orchestrating everything, right? I don't want to say before because this was always a thing, but it was a slow build until now. I think Foggieraw and I went viral because we created a video that just so happened to be what the world needed at the time. And you can't plan that.
I guess there are other things you can pull from it, though. I guess that you were tapping into nostalgia of a
Yeah.
major artist. Yeah, talk me through. Well, before I interject with that, talk me through. Are there any other elements you think that really made it go?
Yeah. People always ask me this, and I never know how to answer it. So I'm more curious to hear about your side. I know you just mentioned nostalgia. I want to hear your list too. But what I've broken it down to technically is the length. So it's about 45 seconds. Right now, that's kind of where people's attention spans, well, it was. Now it's even smaller, but we were kind of in that 45-second range. Something new was always happening on the screen. So in the beginning, you have Foggieraw. That shot is super clean. That's people's favorite shot. A lot of people would cite his skin. The way that I color graded his skin looked really nice. It popped off the screen. That's an attention grab. We can call that the hook. As we go throughout the video, we need a way to retain people. Why should I keep watching this? Well, one, his writing is incredible. So that's keeping your ear engaged. But when it comes to your eyes, what are you seeing? We're slowly dollying out. We're moving out very slowly, meaning something's coming. In the background, you see the Waffle House workers kind of flipping eggs and bacon and stuff on the grill. And then in the frame, you start to see these people come in. You start to see the love interest, Logan, on the opposite side of the camera. Her head kind of slowly comes into the frame. And then we see eventually that the woman that Foggieraw's talking to is on a date with another man. But we don't really see that until we kind of weave the camera through. So all these things are unfolding, and it's just keeping your eyes engaged as Foggy is telling the story audibly. So that's the way we're retaining. Something new is always happening on the screen, progressing us toward what we're expecting to see at the end, but we might not know what it is. And then at the end, Foggy interacts with the girl, and we show the interaction or the reaction of the date, just kind of like shaking his head like, this man is really spitting game to my girl while we on a date, right? So that's kind of the payoff at the end. So the formula, which is something, it's not a formula that's new. It's something that's in all storytelling, is hooking people. Why should I care in the first place? How do I keep you around, retain? And then how do I make it worth your while? Payoff, right? So if we want like tangible things, that's kind of the format that we followed, and that's how that video fits in there.
Got it. So on my side, I'm thinking about repeating any of yours. There's obviously that shock reveal factor you mentioned that will, people then can react to and jump in the comments, see what people are saying. There will also be the nostalgia, so they might go and look, oh, this reminds me of, a song. What is it? Let me go look what people are saying in the comments. You've got elements like a well-known location. It's like, oh, what Waffle House is this? Do I recognize it? I'll carry on watching, see if I do, and I'll go and pay. Hey, that's so, I've been there before. That's so and so place. Um, all those elements also come into it because that keeps people around in the comment section. People don't always have to be watching the video. People might just see something and then jump in the comments to either write something or see what people are saying. I often see that all the time. It's not just like, your video can be really engaging as well, but then are you going to let it loop through again so you can read through and just
Mm,
be part of the discourse? And if you've
right.
got other elements going on where it's got your mind curious, you're often going to go to the comments then to try and satisfy that and those questions you've got.
That's good. You just taught me something. I didn't know I do that. I do that all the time on social
Hmm.
media. So now I want to figure out how to reverse engineer that. But that's good. I appreciate you sharing your list too.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I find that, as I say, I do it myself as well. I often just, get curious, and maybe sometimes the comments can be more interesting than what I've seen after that. But
Right.
yeah, I guess it's like other platforms. That's mainly on TikTok I'm speaking about, but you find on Twitter you often go to replies as well to see what people are saying. It's a conversation. It's a social media platform. It's not just a video platform.
Right.
Same goes for YouTube. You might read, yeah, you're less likely to read the comments there, I guess. But like again, the same goes. It's still social media. And if I take you back to Foggy Raw and that approach, did that come out first time, or was that more on the fly that the vision and the part came to be? Just I'm curious to see if like you had it all planned out in your head before the shoot, or if it was something more in the moment.
No, that was really in the moment. So that's what I say. Like, this is really a zeitgeist type moment that all the stars aligned for that because how I initially wanted to shoot it, it's crazy to think about how one small decision can change your life. I'm reflecting on that now. So I originally wanted to shoot it on a tripod, and I did. I put it on a tripod and just left it there. And they did the whole interaction. Foggy was standing there, talked to the girl, kind of walked around, and everything was the same, except imagine the camera's just static and we're seeing everything all at once and just slowly zooming out. I tried that and it just didn't feel right. Something in my gut was like, we need more. So then I picked up the camera and shot the version that everyone saw, where we moved around and weaved through everything. So that was a very in the moment decision. As far as the part of the song, Foggy just wrote a verse. That's all that he wrote, as far as I know. I mean, the song is out and stuff now. I think you wrote to it later, but I think at the time we just had that verse and that was it. So there wasn't any songs that like what part should we do? It was just we're doing this whole thing. So back then it was more run and gun, kind of just we're just gonna do what we think is good. And over the last couple years, it's turned into a more strategic approach.
Got it. And why do you think in the moment you chose to do that? I know you said it didn't feel right, but why do you think you then decided to go, freehand?
If I can be as honest with myself as possible, I just don't think it felt as cool as the first two. Because the first two, well, the very first one we shot in my old apartment complex. Like how Foggy and I met, I was recording his features just randomly. Like we had a mutual friend connect us. And I was recording his features in my bedroom with my like little crappy mic and stuff. And then at the end of one of the sessions we had, he asked if I shot videos. And I was taking a break at the time and I was like, yeah, I'm, kind of not really doing it, kind of doing it. And we just decided to run downstairs and shoot the very first video we did. And that did really well compared to all the stuff he had done to that point. And then we did another one. That one started to get attention from people in the industry. And after the context of those two, we did the third one, the Waffle House one that went super viral. And me setting the camera on a tripod just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like it was the next level compared to what we had done before. So I think it was more of a directorial creative decision than it was a content strategy decision. But in retrospect, I can see how that was helpful from an engagement standpoint because no one wants to just watch something static. They want to see some movement and let everything unfold over time.
One thing I want to go into when I do interviews like this, we often talk about viral moments from the artist perspective. But what did you do in the initial aftermath, and what was your thoughts and process on the other side of the making actual content that goes viral? What was the immediate aftermath like for you, and what were you thinking in terms of like next steps and how to capitalize on this moment?
Yeah, this is good. Okay, I want to talk about what we did wrong because I think it's important to reflect on how to improve. And that's not something I've done until this point. If you ask me this question, so great question. I appreciate it. So obviously everybody was excited. We were like, oh my gosh, we went viral. Drake saw it. Chance saw it. Timbaland reposted it. SZA reposted it. Like literally all these people just everything's happening. So I'm super excited. He's super excited. And we're just trying to recreate what we had done for that video and just, take it to the next level. So we kind of followed the same formula. We pull up to a location, we create a storyline based on the verse that he wrote, and we'll get a location, we'll get a model, and we'll tell a story visually to enhance what he's telling in the music. That's kind of the formula that we use, and it worked at the time. But eventually that formula didn't work the same or it's not widely applicable. As I was working with other people, I tried to apply that same formula to their stuff, expecting to see similar results. And I quickly realized that's not the case. And there are things that you can pull from going viral that can help you in other instances, but there's really no silver bullet to going viral. And I don't, as much as people want to try to say there's a formula, I think those people are just trying to sell you something. There are things that there are ways that you can repeat results, and I can't knock anybody's results. If they say that they've gone viral with this formula, then great. But things move so fast these days that I think it's more important for anyone who's creating content to stay up with the times and to figure out maybe what the underlying principles are on why certain things work or don't work in a certain time in history rather than let me just follow the formula that these people did. So I think that's a mistake that I made personally as a director is trying to figure out the formula, the Foggieraw formula, I guess you could say, and then just do that for him and for every artist going forward. So yeah, that's something I learned from that moment. And if you are being inauthentic, then eventually that's going to burst. Either people are going to see through it or you're going to burst because you realize you're faking, you're not being yourself. So bringing it back home, bringing it full circle. If you stick to yourself, and it sounds so cliche, but it is. It's true. It's to be yourself through and through your music and your expression and in your content. Then in the long run, you have to win.
You and I have spoken previously about it not necessarily being about, we could talk here and speak about certain, tips and strategies, but it really does come down to when it comes to content, the mindset and your philosophy towards it is paramount. What can you share for the viewers about diving into that and the way they should approach things?
And I'll start here. Our mission at SBN Studios is to eradicate the starving artist stigma, meaning everyone has the ability to build an audience for themselves online. It is way easier than it's ever been in history to do that. My grandmother could build an audience if she wanted to. My grandmother might even be better suited than some of these artists to build a brand than some of these artists, right? I say that because my grandmother knows who she is and is not afraid to tell people who she is and just speak freely. And that is attractive to the people that see the world the same way that she does. Let's talk about demographics and psychographics. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about demographics. I like to say that's all the things about us that we can see. African American, I'm 24 years old, I live in Atlanta, Georgia, et cetera, right? These are the things that are important for paid advertising. But there's this whole other group called psychographics, which are all the things about someone we can't see. Their worldview, their likes and dislikes, love, hate. These are the things that are important to build connections to people online. I've had conversations with people that look like me and then people over across the world in India about content because of what I post on the internet. And because I'm sure in what I believe and what my worldview is, and I'm putting that out on a platform consistently so that other people who believe that same thing can congregate into a community. So when it comes to content, the platform does not matter. But if you understand who you are at your core and put out content consistently from that core, a community will be built over time, regardless of the platform. So that's the overall philosophy of how I approach the strategy for the content that we create for our clients.
And when you're sitting down with the artist to plan out a shoot, is that your starting point? You're trying to dive into getting to know them on that kind of deeper level.
Yeah, it literally starts from there. I don't ask them about I don't care about the musical inspirations or any of that. That's important for creating music. I'm not helping them create music. That's a whole separate thing. There's two sides. That's four. Two sides. One side is we're creating the art. That's expression. Great. Do that in private. I make music. I understand that. That's a whole separate thing. But when it comes to pushing the music out to the masses, that's when we start to have to be strategic about it. You have to make certain decisions. And you can't necessarily show everything if you want to create a brand for yourself. Ethically, that's a whole different conversation. I feel some type of way about that. But that's just the world we live in right now. So what are we going to do? Are we going to complain about it or are we going to do something about it? SBN Studios is doing something about it. So in order to have your cake and eat it too, you have to create freely over here and express, but then choose what you want to show to the public over here and be intentional about that. A designer, Chris Doe of the future. I love this man. I love this man's content. I learned a lot from him this year. He says to generalize in private and specialize in public. So when we're talking about this side, you have to start from in here. That's my philosophy because that is the thing that sets you apart. And that's also the bridge between these two. When we express ourselves through art, we're being ourselves authentically. And as we create, this naturally comes out in the art, right? But for some reason, we lose that over here because we think we have to compromise. But you don't. I think a lot of people think because I can't show all of this over here, that this over here is not authentic. That's not true. You're just strategically showing pieces of this to the masses so that they can put you in a box because that's what's needed to push you out to multiple people, right? Now, if you do this for long enough, people will start to build a brand, start to recognize you. They'll box you in, whatever, right? Eventually, you'll be able to break out of that box. That's a different part of the conversation. But going back to the original thing, you start at their story. Who are you as a person? What do you care about? Why do you care about it? And how do we extract things about your particular story and inject that into your content and brand strategy?
And how much of the content you're making actually includes the music?
A lot of it. So when it comes down to actually shooting the content, we are doing performance content still because that's still important. You still have to have videos of your music, but half of the content is organic, digging into their story. And most of it in the beginning is very general because we're throwing darts at the board and seeing what sticks. But at least we know what darts we're throwing now. Instead of throwing all the darts, right? We're throwing less darts because we're being more intentional.
We throw around the word like organic content a lot. What does that mean to you? Because I'm imagining it means a little bit beyond I'm just shooting on my phone. What other
Yeah,
elements are there to you that you treat it that way?
I appreciate you asking that. I never thought about that. But yes, the way I define organic is non-performance content. So in my context, we do content for artists. We also do content for small businesses, but our main bread and butter are for musicians. So a lot of the stuff that we were doing in 2022 was performance based, meaning we'll pull up to a location, the artist will just perform their song, and we'll chop that up and give them a bunch of clips to post on social media to just promote their song. But this quickly got very oversaturated. In less than a year, everybody was doing it. And now we're back to square one, basically. We have a new plateau. And how do you connect to people deeper through that? Organic content is a way to connect deeper with people beyond, hey, here's my song. So that's what I think when I think organic is how do we get people to know you as a person behind the music? And that can be highly produced content or it can be low fidelity content. But right now, in this current moment, it seems like the lower fidelity organic content does a little better than the highly produced content.
And from the way you described that, you can see why artists struggle with that idea as well, because you're talking about in a sense that obviously, when it's performance based, it's obviously, it's planned and maybe rehearsed. And now with organic content, it's not supposed to quite be that way, but you still need to do a level of planning anyway to shoot that kind of content. So it can get pretty difficult to distinguish between the both, I guess, if you're caught in the moment. What advice would you give to someone who's feeling that sort of that struggle?
I would say really the bottom line for any content is to create from a place of authenticity. And this is something that, again, I'll define this word too because it's important because everyone, I feel like for the personal brand space has been talking about this word authenticity. But what does it mean? The way that I define that is just being integral as a person, having integrity. You show up in public the way you show up in private. The way that you are around your closest friends, you are in public. Now, not in all cases. Like everyone shouldn't get all parts of you, right? The way that you act around your mom and dad or your significant other or your closest friends versus your business associates, those are two different sides of you. That's fine. But as long as you are at your core being consistent across all of these interactions, that to me is being authentic or integral or walking in integrity. So that's where we start, at least in our philosophy with making content. And what I always tell people when you're making content is to start from what you feel like you can do for the next 7 years, right? Because it takes really long to build a true core audience. And I think with social media, a lot of us, including myself, are tricked into thinking that if you do the right thing, the right combination of content, or if you go viral, that your life is going to be changed and everything's going to be good. That happened to me. And my life is changed, but it's not everything that it should be yet, right? I mentioned the viral video that we had with Foggy. That video changed both of our lives. It did. I can't lie and say that it didn't. But after that, everything wasn't peachy clean. I was making, a certain amount of money, but it was going down probably a year after I worked with him. And I had to do my own work and be intentional to make it go the other direction, right? To steer the plane back up, right? So all these moments, at least in my experience, and then watching other people, the moments are important, but the moments aren't everything.
I see this as a prime opportunity for artists to start. You've got a bit of free time to start planning out their content and approach. Is there any advice you have to get the wheels turning for them?
I would say start with sitting down and writing down everything you can about yourself. What is your story? It's boring, but do it. It's going to be so important and helpful because that'll give you the context on what you think, what your ideas can come from. So when you're thinking about what content to make, I would say, I mean, everybody knows they need to do performance content. So I think the value I can provide here is for the organic side. If you're shooting organic content, which you should be, think about how you can highlight your unique worldview. What are some hot takes that you have that are really true to who you are? Like, don't try to come up with something just to be controversial. People can see through that. And even if they can't, they will eventually. But like, even my opinion on TikTok and stuff, that might be kind of a hot take. Like, it's not really that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. Artists might think about that as like, how could he say that? TikTok is everything, right? If you have something like that, just say it, in the context of whatever is important to you. If you really care about meditating and journaling because that's changed your life, make some content about that. All of your content should not be about music because your Instagram looks like a walking billboard at that point. It should be a door into who you are as a person. So you can feel free to express yourself within whatever things are important to you, as long as you can figure out a way to pull them together cohesively, which is why it's important to start at the top with the brand strategy, your why for doing what you're doing. It's too much to get into here, but that's why I said to write down your story because that'll be kind of a filter on like what would be important from your story to kind of put together into something that makes sense to the public. So that's the high level, like Lucy, stuff, but something more practical, I would say to post something every other day. to start if you can. If that's too much, then don't do it. Do once a week. Figure out whatever cadence you can do consistently, because what's more important or most important is that you build the habits you need to do this for as long as it takes to see the success that you want. So if posting every day is too much, like you're going to post every day for a week or two and then stop for a month, that is way too much. Go down to something you know you can achieve that's almost laughable, like once a week. I'm going to do one video a week, just one short form video a week, and see how that goes. I'm doing that right now. As I'm starting to release music, I'm not putting it out like on streaming platforms or anything, but I'm just writing regularly. I'm going to, in 2025, release a video of myself, one of my verses every week, because I know that's something I can sustain. And then if it grows, it'll grow. And we'll let it grow as time goes on. But I think, myself included, a lot of us try to start with too much at first and end up not being consistent enough to see success. It's really just about building that muscle. You're not going to go to the gym and squat 4 plates. You got to start with one and build your way up slowly. And there's nothing wrong with that, because the ones that are around and all these artists you're looking at that you care so much about, that's what they did.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, Nehemiah, this has been an amazing conversation. I think we have really covered a lot of great topics here, and really, I'm glad I've been able to pull some things out of you as well we hadn't necessarily thought about, but really appreciate all your insights and wisdom. Where can the people find and connect with you?
Yes. We're at sbnstudios.co on Instagram. And then sbnstudios.co is our website as well. Or just sbnstudios.co everywhere, really. But Instagram is going to be the most important place. I've yapped like this on live. I make short form videos teaching people how to make good content. So if there are things that you found helpful from this, I think you'll find our Instagram helpful as well. It's just a place for me to share thoughts like this. So if you're looking for help with content, if you don't know what ideas to come up with for your content, if you feel stressed out about having to make content, any of these negative feelings around content, our page is designed to help alleviate those things so that you can create the content you need to have the career that you want in music.